Maybe you think that the phone you're using right now, as well as your computer, tablet, or TV, produce millions of colors, right? But actually they don't. They can produce only three, which are red, green, and blue. So how is it possible that you can see more than 16 million colors of them? Well, that's because your screen is designed to hack your brain. By mixing these primary three colors, a new color is created in your head. Now the screen is designed for humans. It means that for your dog, your TV is horrible because dogs can only detect two colors, while humans can detect three. Pigeons, on the other hand, can detect 5 colors. One of them is ultraviolet. And just like you can create a new color in your human brain, you can do the exact same thing and create new things without actually creating them in the real life. You can make something bad look good and make something good look bad. Wait, what was that? I know you're thinking that this is some kind of scammy psychological trick, but it's not. It's science-based. Rory, the author of the book called Alchemy, calls this process intervention. Intervention is similar to innovation, but instead of creating something new in the physical world, you create it in your brain. In this video, I will share with you 7 surprising takeaways from that book. Number 1. Perception is reality. In 2009, a train company called Eurostar was losing customers to airlines. So they asked themselves, how do we make the journey from London to Paris better? The engineers found a solution. And what was it? They spent $8 billion to build completely new train tracks, which reduced the travel time from 3 hours and 20 minutes to 2 hours and 40 minutes. What do you think? Was it the best way to solve it? Well, psychologically, it was not. A better way to solve that problem would be to focus not on the quantity of time, but in the quality of it. They could have transformed the trip into a better user experience. For example, one solution could have been installing Wi-Fi in the trains, which would have costed a fraction of that money, which by the way they actually did, but 10 years later. Or they could have spent only $1 billion hiring the most gorgeous male and female supermodels to serve free champagne through the journey. Sounds ridiculous, right? But these cheaper solutions would have made people beg for the train to go even slower. We perceive time differently depending on what we do during that time. For example, you have probably said things like, "Those was the longest 5 minutes of my life," or "I didn't know how 1 hour just passed." Now you can take a look at your own business and job and see how you can apply this knowledge. For example, now you know that if you redesign the waiting room of your office so that customers could do some funny things, they will forget about the waiting time. By the way, here's another thing about the waiting time. We absolutely hate waiting, and hate even more waiting in uncertainty. So you can reduce time not by reducing it, but by reducing the uncertainty of it. Uber, for example, does this masterfully. Do you feel like Uber gets to you really faster than a taxi? Probably. But the thing is, Uber didn't necessarily reduce the time it takes for the car to get to you. Instead, they reduced the uncertainty of how long you had to wait. How? Well, by showing you a map. Of course, when you can see where the driver is and the estimated time of arrival, you feel more in control and less anxious, right? We're happier waiting 10 minutes for a car knowing it'll take 10 minutes than waiting 5 minutes for a car in a state of uncertainty. Humans hate uncertainty. So if you can find a way to reduce it, then you surely have a valuable product or service in your hands. If you look at problems psychologically rather than logically, you'll come up with different answers that may be better and cost even less. For example, in the UK, if you buy a Ferrari, they will deliver it to your local dealership for free, which is pretty cool. But there's also a second option. They call it the factory tour. Here's how it works. You pay £500 to visit the Ferrari factory and get the tour inside of it. Of course, you have to travel at your own expense. But get this, only at the end of the tour is when you get to drive your brand new car. Fabulous, right? Well, what they do has nothing to do with reality. Reality hasn't changed at all. But by calling it a tour on the factory, they've gotten you to pay £500 and pick up your own car. Rolls-Royce is another great example of this. They made their cars seem cheaper by changing the context in which they were shown. They used to exhibit their cars at car shows, as usual, but there, they looked absurdly expensive compared to the car industry, so they just changed the context in which they were exhibited. In a very smart move, they stopped taking their cars to the car shows and started exhibiting them at yacht and plane shows instead. Now, if you've been looking at airplanes and boats all afternoon, a 250,000 cars looks pretty cheap in comparison. One final example. A lot of businesses fail not because their product is bad, but because they don't know how to sell it. For example, the English Royal Mail is actually a very good service. The percentage of first-class letters and mail delivered overnight in the UK is 97%, but they wanted to improve it even more and reach 98.5%. Unfortunately, it imposed huge costs on the system and almost broke it. The funny thing is that if you went and asked citizens what percentage of first-class mail arrived the next day, the typical answers range from 40 to 80%. Anyone said 97%. This proves that the problem was with the perception of the mail. They wanted to improve it even more and reach 98.5%. So what they really wanted was to improve the perception of the service and not the service itself. But if perception is much worse than reality, then why are you trying to improve reality instead of improving perception? What they should have done was simple. Just advertise and let people know how good the product is. That's why it makes no sense to focus on the product and forget marketing. People need to get a great product, but they also need to believe they're getting a great product. Number 2, small interventions can have a huge impact. We used to assume that complex problems require complex solutions. But sometimes a small and seemingly trivial intervention can have a significant impact. Have you ever asked yourself why elevators have mirrors inside of them? Well, instead of spending a lot of money to make elevators faster, mirrors were installed. They keep you distracted and avoid boredom. Therefore, the ride seems faster than it actually is. Another example, let's say you're a doctor and your patients have the terrible habit of abandoning their pills. The rational solution would be to tell them about how dangerous that is. Maybe with a small biology class explaining how bacteria can get stronger and make them feel scared and create the fear of becoming badly ill. Or you could find a pretty much easier solution. Instead of giving them 24 white pills, give them 18 white pills and 6 blue ones. Tell them to take the white pills first and only then take the blue ones. By chunking it, they'll feel like this is a process divided into 2 stages. Guess what? The probability of individuals reaching the end is much greater if there's a significant point of achievement midway through the journey. Number 3, the opposite of a good idea can be a good idea. In science, there are right answers and wrong answers. Opposite of a correct answer is a wrong answer. 2 times 4 equals 8. But in psychology and marketing, this rule not always apply. The opposite of a good idea can still be a good idea. For example, if you go to a restaurant, you expect polite and welcoming treatment, don't you? And the opposite of polite behavior is rude behavior. Well, there are some restaurants that have made rudeness part of their service. If you visit one of such restaurants, the waitress will bring the food and throw it in front of you and say rude things in your face. Somehow, when you make rudeness part of your culture and people expect to be treated badly, then it becomes a fun experience and people are going to be more happy to pay for it. Take Red Bull, for example. It is the opposite of Coca-Cola. It tastes strange, comes in a tiny can, and costs several times more. Everybody would laugh at you if you told them that you were going to develop a drink that would make taste strange on purpose, charge 2 to 3 times more than Coca-Cola for it, but sell it in a tiny can so that people could get a very little drink for their money. But that is Red Bull, and it is successful. Number 4. Ask stupid questions, because nobody else will. Sometimes the solution to a problem lies in asking what we would consider a stupid question, the kind of question everyone thinks they know the answer to. Asking unconventional or even stupid questions can lead to breakthrough insights and innovative solutions. Don't you believe it? Okay, let's take a look at a super common example. Taking your child to the doctor. Why do you take your child to the doctor when they get sick? I know, it sounds like a very silly question, but bear with me. Is it because they are ill and you want to take them to the doctor? Of course, you obviously want them to feel better, but many more motivations lie beneath this apparently rational behavior. Pay close attention to this. What people are mostly seeking when they go to the doctor is not treatment, but reassurance. More than a treatment, you want the doctor to tell you that your child will be okay. If you have children, you know that most times that your child has a fever is because of a cold or just a silly virus they caught from another children at kindergarten, and that their bodies will fix it by themselves. That doesn't change the fact that you want a professional telling you that it's nothing big. Actually, most people go to the doctor even when they are not sick, but just to make sure things are okay. The only reason someone would do something like that is reassurance. And the best proof is that you don't see people visiting the dentist for no reason, do you? Most people don't want to look stupid, which is why they don't ask stupid questions. But those questions can help you to uncover powerful insights. For example, there can be an extraordinary competitive advantage if you create a small space in your business for people to test things that don't make sense. Venturing beyond conventional reasoning offers significant advantages because the majority of your rivals will likely hesitate to explore those uncharted territories. Number 5. Don't design for the average. Designing for the average person may seem like a safe bet, but it can lead to a failure. And why? Well, that's because almost no one is actually average. Think of it this way. Some people are 2 meters high, right? While others are 1.3 meters. So the average person would be 1.65 meters. If you design something, let's say pants, for example, for a 1.65 person, it'll fit them great. But will they fit the 2-meter person? Or will they fit the 1.3 meter person? Probably not. And we're not even taking into consideration average weight. Designing something for the average person is like trying to create average weight. It might fit some people okay, but in reality, it will fit very few people perfectly. Just like everyone's body is unique, everyone's preferences and needs are also unique. If you try to design something for the average person, well, there's a chance your product won't be absolutely hated, but it won't be loved either. So instead of trying to make something that everyone will like, better focus on a specific group of people who have unique needs and preferences. If you can make something that these people really love, they'll tell all their friends and will help you to make your product a success. A great example of this is the saga Harry Potter. The story was originally created for English 11-year-old boys, and it became so popular among that audience that it leaked into other audiences too. And today, it's a story loved by people of all ages and countries. Number 6. People don't see the world objectively. I need to create an advertisement for a car. and I don't know which one to choose. Which option would you recommend to me? Option A is to create an ad that shows the car, shows how beautiful it is outside and how spacious it is inside, and talks about the powerful and fast engine and the comfortable seats. Option B shows the car racing along the African savanna side by side with a big cat like a lion. If you think option B will be more successful, you're probably right. And why is that? The reason is more simple than it looks. There's an animal in it. It's been proven that advertisements with beautiful, fluffy animals simply do better than advertisements without them, no matter the product. But wait a second, if I'm buying a car, I should probably take things like comfort, power, and space into consideration. So why would I allow myself to make my choice based on that cute big cat instead of all the objective features of the product? The answer is your unconscious mind. We do things for reasons that we consciously know nothing about. If you ask someone why they're doing something, they'll give you a reason for sure, but that doesn't mean that is the actual reason. Because although we assume that people perceive the world objectively and that they think logically all the time, things doesn't work that way. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world according to what it means to us. And if you're a businessman or a leader, you must have that in mind all the time. And even when you don't be in your business contact, when you be solving problems with either a friend or your partner or a co-worker, forget about logic and think in psychological terms. You will see how magical it is, and you will realize that what people say is not always what they mean, and doesn't always translate into what they feel or what they intend to do. Number 7. Being logical might not give you benefits if everyone is doing the same. There's one very interesting thing about military strategy. It never makes a lot of sense, right? Of course, if you track back to all steps taken by an army during an attack, for example, you'll realize that in the end, there was a clear goal and steps taken to get there. But the thing is, there were also diversions along the way. And why? Because if the military act logically, they would become a threat for themselves. They would become predictable. And you don't want your enemy to be aware of all your moves, right? Well, the same happens in the business world. The business that follows a predictable path will become obsolete quickly. And that is because even if you have initial success, soon everyone will know what you're doing and will be doing the same as you. To be successful, it's essential you think differently, creatively, and innovatively. The author says, instead of copying your competitors and think all they do is working, find out their flaws, find out what they're doing wrong, and then exploit their deficiencies to your advantage. That way, you can develop a unique selling point that makes people want to choose you over anyone else. For example, if you plan to write a book, find similar books to that one that you want to write and read all the 1 and 2-star reviews. According to the author, many of the solutions of the future will probably come from psychology, not from logic. We don't live in the Middle Ages anymore. Most of the problems that require logical solutions have been already found. The rest are highly likely to be logic-proof, meaning they can't be solved with logic. Please let us know in the comments what do you think about this. And this is it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you. I've summarized several psychological books similar to this one, which you could check in the first comment. And if you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, with reading and education, life is always so much better.